Are live.
We are live. Okay, welcome to Morning Minutes with not just myself and Mark Novak. We've got a great panel on this morning. We've got Lee Woodward, who has been an agent and a real estate coach for how long, Lee? 30 years?
Just 30 years in the game, 20 years in coaching.
Beautiful. I didn't want to say it wrong with me insulting. We've got Luke Moroney on, who has been working mainly on the buyer side for many years. Is what a bit of a more as a buyer's agent scouting all across Australia. And then Michael Edwards as well, who has been a principal, lived the life of real estate, and you're more working on developments and external rather than as a principal at the moment, aren't you, Michael?
Yeah, so basically now I'm running a company called Locals Connect. And so basically we're working in like individual communities, building websites to connect communities, and it's very enjoyable.
Beautiful. And of course, Mark Novak. And this morning we're talking about basically depression, anxiety, and basically probably the elephant in the room at the moment in what we're going through. We touched on it yesterday that there is the health side of this blade, but there's also the economic side and the economy. And what we find goes hand in hand: when the economy is going bad, depression goes up, suicide goes up, marital breakups. There's a big correlation with a bad economy to more a sort of a bad personal lives as well. So we thought we'd bring on this all-star lineup to discuss their thoughts, their views, their experiences, and how we can help people through this time, what they should focus on, what they should do. So who wants to go first?
Michael, there's even a lot of talk, and we're all men on here today, and I think especially at times I've already seen the rates of domestic violence actually increase. So that's a big awareness that we need to share, especially for us men that are out there. So a big shout out for that as well. So protecting the women of the world and children as well. So
and look, and you're right. All those leads, all these things lead back to mental health. Hey guys, so Luke Moroney, you're the guy that suggested that we talk about this. We all agreed and thought it was a fantastic idea. Michael, you're saying it's an elephant in the room. Mr. Edwards has suffered from depression, and also Lee Woodward, one of the biggest real estate coaches in the country. He's exposed, particularly lately, to a lot of real estate agents opening up and saying, look, we've got a problem. So I think as an industry, we're pretty well represented this morning. I think as an industry, if everyone could just have, maybe we'll just go around circle, a little bit of airtime to their exposure and maybe 15, 30 seconds on their tips of what they can suggest people do in stressed, hard, anxious, depressing environments that you could be in, things that you could do. I know Luke, you're a very big exerciser, but maybe if we could lead with Lee Woodward. Lee Woodward, one of the biggest real estate trainers in the country. What have you got to say to our customers of Novak, the watchers of Novak channel, everyone who's watching today? What have you got to say to the industry?
I think this is a very interesting time. For 20 years of coaching, you see people every quarter go up, down, up, down. I feel amazing, I'm getting out. I feel amazing, I'm getting out. And quite often their mental health's based upon their figures. And it's always a challenge when someone depends how they feel based upon a set of metrics, which is separate to your life, your wife, your family, or the family and friends around you. And we give such focus to the pressure of performance. However, what I've just seen in the last 6 months, especially in these last couple of weeks, which have been nothing like this on earth has ever happened to all of us all at once at the same time, is a very unusual time that I think when people do get down, they do get that deep, dark night of the soul, and they feel, it's me, I haven't done this, I've done this wrong, and nobody else is going through this. Right now, we're seeing everybody very scared, everybody very nervous. And how do we get through the next 24 hours? We don't know what the next announcement's going to be. that it's actually been quite humbling how everyone's, for the first time ever, saying it's not just me. Where I think this depression and anxiety comes about when I'm the one stupid, I'm the one doing it all wrong, it must be me. You turn the light on the whole world, the whole globe right now who's terrified and scared, and you think, I might be all right here because I'm as scared as everybody else. I know myself, the last 4 days have been nothing but how do I protect 20 staff from joining an unemployment line? And what can I negotiate? What can I do? What can I maneuver? How can I hold this all together? When people say what we're going to do next week, that's a long time away. Just the next 24 hours is all I'm focused on because it's all I can focus on. And I was very fortunate as a young person before coming into business of real estate that I was managed by a company called International Quarterback. And they looked after, I was in the music industry at that time, they looked after myself, Trevor Hendy, Grant Kenny, or the Iron Men. We're all managed by the same guy. He did sports, music, and politics. And he had this great skill when they say, oh, in 6 months or 4 months' time, where will we be? And he say, don't even worry about it. It's going to change 10 times before we get there. Let's make sure we perform this week. Let's make sure we do everything we can in the week that we're in. And I learned a lot about that threshold of stress and anxiety of how do you increase that to say, well, and for those of you that have just been on the bike ride with Michael and Mark, they actually say, don't do the hills before the hills.
Yeah.
When you're a non-bike rider on a bike looking at a mountain of gravel in Thailand, it's very easy to look out into the future and think, I can't do that, versus just head down and we'll do the hill when we get to the hill. And I think right now we've got to not look too far forward, stay present in the day we're in. What can you do? Everyone's talking about what's going to happen to you. And Mark, you beautifully said there before, you know, I'm speaking to a lot of agents right now, and probably for the first time with me, they're lifting the veil. I'm not the guy off the Real Estate Hot Topics program. I'm the guy with 20 staff just like them. And I think in these times, no one cares how famous you are. It's who you are. And I think there's a massive power in the humbling of, and I'm blown away. I've had phone calls this week where I'm in tears every second phone call because someone's sharing something they never would. They feel better for it. I'm just honoured they'd be happy to share that with me. And everyone's scared. Everyone's got that fear, that false evidence appearing real. But learning to manage that will be the skill now, not waiting to crumble in the corner and say, well, that's what happened to me. What happens to you is it's your movie. What's going to happen in the next chapter is up to you. Passing the ball.
Very well said. Very well said. Now, if I could come across to Michael and Michael Edwards, and just what are your takeouts that you can offer from to the industry, to our Facebook followers that are watching,
millions of viewers watching, millions.
Mr. Edwards,
yeah, great.
Mr. Edwards, your anxiety, depression, which is probably more the topic of today. You're also very qualified, maybe the most qualified. You manage it, and you've been through depression, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I was an agent since 1996 through to 2012 when I actually lost my license, and it was a really tough time for me. I struggled a lot, and not being able to talk to anyone. I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone, and I tried to manage myself, and it took me to some really dark places. And it was years that I went through it, and if I could have reached out to someone, if I felt I could reach out to someone, it would have been great, but I didn't. I was very egotistical, and something that I wrote when I was going through my depression was that ego was the fuel to failure for me. And talking to a lot of agents that through the business that I'm doing now over the last couple of weeks, and we've even had to change around our model. Just to accommodate more businesses, because with the site that we're launching for DY, for instance, we had 150 businesses signed up to go on it, and a lot of those businesses now have their doors closed. So they're not even there. But talking to the agents that are out there, they're all struggling, and a lot of them, I think a lot of businesses have been swimming naked for a long time. And what I mean by that is, they need to look good. They need to look like they're being really successful, but I know that they're struggling. And, you know, I was in one office the other day and the guy, he's gone down from eight staff to 2, you know, just straight away, just with a big red pen. Yeah, and all the leased cars and all those sorts of things. He's just, you know, working out how he can get rid of them. And you know, I don't think in that particular business he's got the funds to get through the next 2 months, let alone the next 6 months. And so I think it's a time for everyone to have some real conversations. You know, talk to people like Lee. Lee's got a lot of knowledge. Yeah, and work out some benchmarking stuff of where people can save money. You know, where they can get good value. I mean, you know, it's so expensive to run an office these days. Even if you're a single operator from working home, it's expensive. And, you know, just working out how they can get better value out of their connections, you know, have more meaningful relationships. Because I think, you know, a simple business is a great business. And, you know, over the last couple of years, I think that's been lost a bit. So, yeah, just...
Michael, where would you advise if they've done that business side, but they're still not?
Can I just ask one thing, guys? Can everyone just write at the end? We're going to do Q&A to each other. Yeah. I just want everyone to have a bit of a chin wag first.
Okay.
So we've heard from Lee Woodward, one of the best trainers in the country. Michael, anything to add? And then I wanted to come back to Q&A so we can Q&A each other. Just write down the questions, guys, if you've got them towards each other. Cool. Because we still got Luke Moroney very patiently sitting in the back, and Michael Bergia very patiently sitting in the back. So sorry, Mr. Bergia. Anything else to add, Mr. Edwards?
Just the final bit. You know, there's tough times everywhere. You know, a lot of people going through a lot of stuff. So there is going to be that pain out there. It's going to cause a ripple effect into other areas of people's lives. Yeah. And you know, rip the Band-Aid off. Have a conversation because it really does help.
Okay, great. All right, now Luke Moroney, very, very successful buyer's agent, working, selling a lot of stuff out of Sydney into Queensland, and very, very powerful on social media. You're the one that asked to talk about this today. We all agreed and thought it was a wonderful topic to talk about: depression, anxiety, and dealing with the environment we're currently in. Over to you, good sir.
Yeah, on the back of all the things that are going on in real estate, I think there's, you know, a lot of pain out there in many industries, and I think we need to be aware of that. I think the message is for everyone is there's no short-term cure on this. I think I wear often a t-shirt that says patience on it, and I think these times are going to require a lot of patience for us. I think that you know, this is a marketplace that is really struggling right now. We've never seen anything like this before. I actually volunteer at Lifeline and have been for the last 3 years. So the mental health space is a big one for me. So we're discussing with people's mindsets, and financially, it's you know, it's probably 50% of cases that are actually in financial ruin and need the help of mental health like Lifeline. So that number is probably going to be dramatically increased over the next coming weeks and months. So I just think we need to be thinking about that and how we can reach out and help. Now, I noticed someone else in the real estate industry is actually doing a little bit in that. So I don't know if you guys know Stu Benson. He's an auctioneer out in the Northwest area. And he runs a Facebook page, which is Dads of the Hills. And he's been putting out a lot of mental health things about businesses in that area. So I think it's really good to see that sort of community activity happening via social media at the moment. So get on there. And I think there was a little bit of talk around vulnerability, which is really important for us to all reach out and help out. And I know within mates that I have that we've been talking about these things and talking about how we can help each other through these times and the difficult things that are going on. So yes, the big message is reach out, be aware about yourself. And, you know, Michael has obviously gone through some of this himself. And it's just important for us to really talk about it as much as we can.
Awesome. So take no short-term vulnerability. Okay, great. Now over to Michael Bergio. Let's have a chat with you, legend.
Yeah, I think something Lee just said really resonated with, I think I'm big on associating the quarter figure to how well I've done every quarter. And I think it's coming to that realization that gratification or that metrics of saying if things are good won't be there. Because like what we said last night, Mark, figures could be shit for 6 months. Like I think I did about 80 calls yesterday inbound, and none of them were people looking to buy, but they were all people looking for advice, looking for help, looking for reassurance in that sort of property market. So I think I've been big on that, where you're looking at the figures to gain how well you've done or how hard you've worked, but that's not going to be there. So you don't want to get into that trap. But it's also where now it's changing that mindset, especially as an agent. Instead of it being a money call or you're doing outbound calls to try and do a deal, it's more doing outbound calls, seeing how you can help and give back. Because I don't think now there's going to be many deals, especially in commercial. I've done, over the last few days, I think I've probably done 500 calls to buyers, and a lot of them are just like, let's wait and see. It's not like that residential where they may have sold and they need to buy. So instead of trying to like throw a property down someone's throat in a time that's probably not right, more have a call going, how can I help? And where can I offer that advice? It could be landlords having issues with the tenant, and that help negotiate if tenants are finding hardship. And I think that's where that mindset's got to be, especially for me, because normally you're like, well, how many hot buyers did you speak to? But I think I'm going into a market where there won't be any hot buyers. So instead of allowing myself to fall into a trap of thinking I'm not doing good or not working, I need to change that metrics around. So that's one thing I'm conscious of, because I know the last few days I've just like thought, what the fuck am I doing? Because there's no progress down there. But I had a good chat with Novak, and it was like, it's people remember, what did Lisa say? People remember how you made them feel in tough times. So if people are willing to call me for their advice, you've got to give them that time. And then down the track, if they call you and they want to do a deal, then great. But I think my mindset's definitely got to change moving forward, because we don't know where this is going.
Yeah. In response to that, Michael, if I can respond.
Yes.
I think
No.
over to you, Mr. Novak. Over to you. Over to the host.
Write the question down. And just so look, we've got online everyone currently who's just tuned in. Lee Woodward, one of the best real estate coaches in the country, dealing with mindset with agents. We've got Mr. Michael Edwards, ex-real estate agent, in and out of the business, lost his license and working closely with the community and deals with depression. Got Luke Moraney, one of the most strongest buyers agents in the area, and Michael Berger, commercial agent. My piece that I wanted to add, guys, is basically if you are a person that can afford to write off money and help people doing what you do best, that's powerful. So what I mean by that is I had a discussion with a close friend of mine last night that I thought, he put a post up about spending time with his kids and about working 100 hours a week at the moment. And I put out the olive branch and called him, and it ended up being a psychological session for me. So I was like, he's been fortunate enough, runs a team, and he's been fortunate enough he can ride the next 12 months, right? So he's walked into his office, taken off his belt, put his gun down, and all he does is sits there and talks to his clients every day and helps them in any way that he can. And I thought, in the noblest and most humblest way, and it's very fortunate that he's in a position like that. I'm not, but he was genuinely there to say, do you want me to come into the office and talk to your crew? Do you want me to, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? I think this is the time, unfortunately, I've heard what I've got some great takeouts from what people have told me today. I'm going to steal a couple of them, regurgitate them, but we're not riding the hill, which is what Lee Woodward said. Like we would, Lee's been in business a very long time, very successful. I want to hear how you're going to get through this. And the big thing, my takeout was, because we were on a 500-kilometer bike ride together, the advice we were given was, do not ride that hill before you've ridden that hill. And we were saying, what the hell are you talking about? And Lee reminded us earlier, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yes, I can do all the preparation in terms of to ride the hill, but don't ride the bloody hill. So I think we got to deal with stuff for the next 24 hours. With what Mr. Edwards was saying, talk to people. I think that's probably my biggest weakness, and where there's five guys on this panel today. And I think males probably are traditionally a little bit worse. We don't open up and talk. People can only help if you offer them information. People can only step in and help you if they know what the problem is. So what Michael Edwards is saying is talk to people, the simple things, and rip the Band-Aid off and get shit done if you need to get done. Michael Berger helping people, changing the metrics with what Michael Berger and Lee Woodwards have spoken about is very interesting, because we've always reported our figures. The metrics has always been how much you make this quarter, but I now think the metrics have changed. The metrics are how happy can you make someone feel after you've had that conversation. The metrics of the world is changing, has changed. Now let's go over to Q&A before we close up, and I may do it in the same rotation. Lee Woodward, any questions you have for Mr. Edwards, Mr. Michael, Luke Moroney, or Mr. Bergio, or me?
My question is an observation to this great conversation, and no one should base their self-worth off their results. And I think in this country, we've always had a view that if you're not running your own business or doing your own EBU or something, you're not doing well. I think now is the time to forget the pride side of your life, and it could be a great opportunity to plug and play with some other people around you. Success is never a solo performance. You always need good people around you. And if you saw in the last 24 hours, there was a press release about Real Estate Academy. And Real Estate Academy is now merging into the Realtair company, because I had a choice of expansion or extinction. And to expand what we're doing was, okay, we're in a very interesting time. Conversations been going on for 2 years. But what's the next great opportunity? Who could I collaborate with in my industry and have a better, more fun chance? And I think the KPI now is how many times do you laugh a day? That's the new KPI.
Yeah.
Because laughter is an amazing thing for your soul.
Yes.
So who can you collaborate with? You might have that principal, you've been killing each other for 3 years. You should come together. Maybe you've been a great principal and you've realized you're a great sales professional. Go and plug and play into somewhere where you drop all the accounts for a second and service people, become the helpline of real estate, and fall back in love with your job. That's another option. And that's something I'm really getting out of this talk of, let it be. None of us are that important really in the real estate process, because if we're out of the real estate process, someone else will pick it up. If you did something completely different, what attitude would you take to the game? And I know for myself, and my final comment, the only strategic advantage I have over anything I do or work against or work with is I'm prepared to get up early, work hard. I can go into the evening. And that is my one thing I always rely upon, is that I have the ability to focus and work hard. No one can take that. You can sit around and watch it, or you can get stuck into it. But that is my strategic advantage, and I rely on it every day.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's have a conversation orgy. I just thought instead of letting structure like that, let's close it up. Let's close it up. Let's close it up with comments, orgies, and conversations. Tell us, guys.
Yeah, I want to sort of hear a little bit what you're seeing, Luke. You would speak to probably almost as many agents as Lee. What's the vibe out there? Are people desperate to speak to you because they need stock sold? Are they what are you seeing?
Look, at the moment, like there's a lot of mental health discussions around. It's like a lot of people have been saying today is about, you know, having that feel about how are your clients, how are things going. There is that little bit of conversation around people don't want to do anything because of the coronavirus, but then others saying, okay, there's going to be opportunities out there in the coming months. So I'm going to gear myself and get myself ready. So that's on a client basis. I think some of the agents are definitely struggling out there. Some are trying to uplift the aspect of what's going on and maybe having a false sense of really what's happening or trying to tell a story like that, fake it until you make it.
Yep.
And, you know, maybe that sort of uplifts us a little bit to be a little bit more positive. So that can be a good thing at times. But, you know, we've got to think about the practicality of where we're at right now. So, you know, I guess my question would be out to everyone is, you know, practically what can some of these agents and people in business actually do right now? Because it feels like that everyone's needs to take a couple of steps back to in future in 6 months or 12 months time to go 10 steps forward.
Well, the one thing when I wanted to speak when Michael Edwards was speaking, where is that first step? Luke, you said you worked at Lifeline. So where would you guys recommend if, like, not talk about stripping away the business, making that leaner, but on that personal side, if you're having those dark days, what can someone do potentially in their home by themselves, or doing it by themselves is not the go? Is it a phone call? What's that first step?
Well, it's many things, Michael, many things. You guys talked about habits yesterday, really good. Obviously, I run 7Ks a day and have done for the last 800 days in a row. Really good for your mental strength.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? What have you done?
I've run 7 kilometers every day for the last 820 days in a row.
Insane.
Wow.
So that involves running at some of the airports in New York, but lucky I didn't get in trouble for that. Security didn't see me. But, you know, it's just creating those habits for you, daily habits for yourself. So people talk about meditation and running and exercise, you know, doing visualization, affirmations and various things. You've got to work out what's good for you. So the self-awareness about what works. Running works for me. It clears my mind and can really stimulate. Tony Robbins talks about motion changes your emotion. So that can really help you a lot in terms of your own, not only physical, but your mental state as well. And obviously, if it gets dark in yourself, you wouldn't really want to reach out. So whether you can do that through social media, individual people that you know, friends and family, or call Lifeline 13 11 14. And there's, you know, it's an anonymous call. So, you know, no one knows who you are. They don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. So it's just completely anonymous. Get on the phone, talk for half an hour, have that chat with someone. It might just make you that little bit better. And it's a progression. You've got to remember, this is not an instant cure thing of having, you know, and Michael probably can attest to this. It's not a quick fix like that when it comes to mental health or depression or anxiety. This is a path that you have to lead. And it's the daily habits that you make now that's going to help you in 5 years' time. So, you know, I'd love to hear from Michael around that as well as, you know, that whole thing about, you know, you might be going through some dark things right now with your business, with your family and different things, but work on the little steps that you're going to make. That first step, it's like you guys talk about that analogy about going up the hill, but you're actually looking at making that next pedal forward on your bike or next step that you're going to make when you're running.
Yeah, I think self-care is a big thing. And, you know, identifying those things that you can do by yourself or with other people. And, you know, I remember when you're in that stage of, you know, you're feeling really dark and you're feeling really alone. Like I remember I couldn't even go and get a haircut because I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror, you know, during those times. And then, you know, so you now, like I've got a whole list of things that I love to do. Like I love cooking. I love going swimming at the beach. You know, I love gardening. You know, and back then I was like, oh, well, who'd want to garden? You know, and now I spend, you know, at least half a day a week in the garden because it's something that I enjoy, and then, you know, and then I see something that's growing. You know, I think, you know, over the next couple of months, it's going to be tough for a lot of people, but I think if people can still be positive, be humble, be a good person, I think if we manage the process right, I think at the end of the day, when we all come through the other side of this and the sun comes back out, people will have a better sense of community. because the community is, whether it's a real estate community or the community that you live in, if everyone's there supporting everyone, and I see random acts of kindness every day, and it warms my heart, and they'll also have a better appreciation of professionalism, because I think, especially real estate's been, copped a real hiding the last couple of years, with the flat fee service and all these other things that come in, where it's probably going to wind back to the people who are really good at their job, who really care about what they do. It's like that. Lee used to call it, get rid of the pond scum, and the cream rises to the top. And I think that's what will happen. Yeah.
Bunch of gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Massive takeouts. We'll put those up. If you've got anyone that this can help, please share it with them. Please tag them in, and it helps us with the show as well. It motivates us when we see that. So, anything else to add before we close up, guys?
Nope.
Mr. Lee Woodward, you still there?
I'm still here, all said, all done, and what a very interesting show today.
Yeah,
really exciting, guys. Really inspired that you can get, some great people together and sharing some really good ideas, and hopefully that just helps at least one person, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Well, show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. So you're a bunch of friends. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, and share it through. Talk
Have
soon.
a great day, guys.
Cheers.
Okay, guys. See you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
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 Lee at Novak.